Today's episode has been brought to you by Schedulicity
and pelvic health professionals. In a recent guest expert call with Carolyn Van Dyken, we learned all about pelvic floor engagement, aka Kegels, or in the yoga world, Mula Bandha. We learned that effective pelvic floor strengthening happens with 30 repetitions all at once. If this seems super specific, it is. And Carolyn talks about why that is the one way to strengthen the pelvic floor and the most effective way. We also learned that the pelvic floor is always engaged and that it also needs relaxation. It was a fascinating call, and if you would like access to the replay, we have a gift for you that is only for podcast listeners. Go to pelvichealthprofessionals.com to sign up and use the coupon code CONNECTED2021 for a month of free access. This is only valid until the end of this month, so you have a few days if you're listening in real time. To connect to worldwide pelvic health experts and learn the most up-to-date information, go to pelvichealthprofessionals.com. Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow, and I use she, her pronouns. I live here on Turtle Island, which I grew up calling North America. And if you look at a map today, I live 3 hours north of Toronto on the Bruce Peninsula in Ontario. So yeah, it's snowy here. I live on Anishinaabeg, Odawa, and Mississauga land, and I'm trying to learn more as a descendant of immigrants who came here to the home of the Indigenous people. I'm a mom of 3, a yoga teacher, podcaster, and founder of Pelvic Health Professionals. And this podcast was created for you so that each and every week you are connected to the information and inspiration that will support you as you build your unique yoga business. And I'm really excited that we get to dive into this next part in this mini series that we're doing. But before we get there, a random fact about me is that I love Christmas cake. It doesn't matter if it's store-bought or it's homemade. Most people really joke around about or talk about how much they dislike Christmas cake, and I don't get it. I love it. I love the cherries, the nuts, all of the weird bits and peel that goes into a Christmas cake. Honestly, oh my gosh, who else in the world, because I haven't met anyone yet who loves Christmas cake as much as I do. So who else is there? I cannot be alone in this. Am I? So speaking of Christmas cake, here in my house, we've just wrapped up, if you're listening in real time, we've just wrapped up Christmas celebrations, and we still have holiday time leading up to the new year. And this is a really great time of year to reflect and plan and really focus in. And that's exactly what this mini series is all about. And I would love to leave a question with you to kick things off. What do you want to spend your time doing this year, or maybe this month, or this week, or today? And I know, I get it. Sometimes it feels like your calendar or your schedule is all planned out and full, especially if you're a busy working parent or you're taking care of other humans, or if you just have a lot of work in front of you. And in those times, we can feel like, you know what, I can't make these plans. I don't have the extra time. But today, just for today, I really want us to dig in and find out if you are doing the important work that you love. And if you're getting paid for that time, that's also key. I also really want us to take stock for a moment and make sure that your wellness and the connections, your relationships, are getting the attention they deserve. So I have this thing that I do every single year, and I've talked about it before on the podcast, but today's episode is all about this, plus a little bit more. And this thing that I do, it really gives me a big picture of where I want to be going. Now, I do it for 5 years. And I know that as we're living in a pandemic right now, as I'm recording, it's made it so that we don't know what's happening in the next 5 years or 2 years, or maybe even the next year or the next month. But trust me, you don't need to predict the future for this. I've been doing this planning framework for over 5 years now, and it is so amazing to me to look back, because remember, these are 5-year plans. It's amazing to see the intentions that I set 5 years ago. And it's a bit shocking as well to see, oh, wow, that actually, I kind of forgot that I wrote that down, but look it, I'm closer to that, or I've reached that. And it also helps me to move more and more in the direction that I want to be. So back in part 1 and 2 of this framework, we were looking over the past year and what was working and what wasn't. And today we start looking forward. So if you haven't listened to part 1 and part 2, you might want to go back and have a listen, or you might just be feeling like a rebel today and you want to start right in the middle, right here where we're at. The most important thing is that you make this fit your life. Take this framework, my thoughts, my ideas, and run with it and make it your own. I've created a PDF with all of the steps outlined so that you can return to this anytime you're feeling stuck or like you don't know where to focus right now. So that's in our show notes, theconnectedyogateacher.com/252. Okay, we've all heard quotes on how time is our most precious resource, and that's true. Our time here on earth is limited. We don't know how long we have. And personally, I don't have proof yet that we get to do this all over again, even though I really do want to believe in reincarnation. So as Mary Oliver wrote, and I'll quote, "Tell me, what is your plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" I love this question, and it's something to keep coming back to when you hit resistance with this next step, with this next thing that we're going to do. I'm going to share a quick version of this, and I want to tell you that I just did this in a moment of total frustration this year. And then I will also share my usual 5-year plan that is also really quick. We're going to set a timer for that for 20 minutes, but I first want to send some gratitude out to Schedulicity for bringing this episode to your ears today. And while I do that, you might want to grab a pen, a journal, and get comfy where you are. If you're listening on the go, don't worry. You can come back to any point in this episode when you have the time to journal. You can also just listen first, get a feel for things, and then grab your journal when you're ready. Let's hear our hot tip of the week from the team over at Schedulicity.
Hey Connected Yoga teachers, this is Allison with the Schedulicity Hot Tip of the Week. Shannon let us know that some of you have been asking about linking Schedulicity with your Google Calendar. Let's walk through that connection now. Once you've logged in with your admin account, head to Settings and open the Providers/Instructors page. Choose your name from the list, and under the Calendar Share header, move that No slider to Yes. Select and copy the full URL that appears in the text field. Next, sign into your Google account and click on the grid box at the top right of the page where you will select the calendar option. Click on the small plus button on the right of the Add Calendars area. Now, choose the option that says From URL and paste your generated link from Schedulicity there. Click Add Calendar and you're good to go. Google generally pushes their calendar share updates once a day, so you may see up to a 24-hour delay in your schedule changes. Also, keep in mind that this is a one-way share in which your Schedulicity appointments will be visible from your Google Calendar, but not vice versa. You may want to work out of your Schedulicity account to avoid double booking yourself just in case.
Thank you so much, Team Schedulicity, for bringing today's episode to our listeners and also for keeping our calendars organized, whether we are a service-based business, a yoga studio, or an individual yoga teacher. Also, if you want to check Schedulicity out, or if you want to save a bit as an existing customer, make sure to use the coupon code CYT2months for 2 months of free access. All right, let's dive into the journaling part of this. So first of all, I'm going to share this list that I said. I created this in a moment of total frustration. I had gotten pulled into some online drama. Hey, you probably have seen a lot of that going on these days out in the world. And I realized I was just wasting my time. I was stewing about this. I was checking back on this Facebook thread, and it wasn't helping. It wasn't helping anyone, me stewing about this. I think that we've all been there at some point. Maybe we have a phone call, or maybe we have a tough day at work, or maybe like me, we're scrolling on social media and something really triggers this in us. And it was Sean, my partner Sean, who actually inspired me on this exact day, because I came to him and I was telling him all about this. And then I was telling him what a total waste of time this was and why couldn't I just get this out of my head. And he asked me what I would like to be doing instead with my time. So I sat down and I made a list. At the top of the page, I wrote personal. And then in the middle, I wrote work. And I underlined both those titles. And like you might have other things, but I was just thinking, I'm going to make this so simple. This is my personal life. This is my work life. Then very quickly, and because I was pretty ticked off, my list was also quite messy, and it was just like an aggressive list, if ever there was one. I wrote down everything that gets my focus. And this was so cathartic. I want to tell you, if you're ever feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm caught up in this thing and I don't want to be wasting my time here, try a list like this. I sat back and read over this list. And of course, getting intertwined in some weird Facebook thread, it just wasn't there on the list. It was a thing that I knew was distracting me. And my list was just full of things that I want to be spending my time and energy doing, things that really excite me and make an impact in the world. Last week on the podcast, I talked about how we can't climb every single mountain or we'll just get exhausted and not get anywhere. All of a sudden, right in front of me was a list of the mountains, quote unquote mountains, metaphorical mountains, that I was willing to climb. So if you get frustrated when you're spinning your wheels and you know that you're kind of wasting or spending your precious time somewhere where you don't think it's really making an impact or making a difference, then you might want to make a list like this. Or if you find yourself thinking that you never get to do that big, exciting project that's in the back of your mind, you might want to sit with this list. Where is your time going? An example of where we don't want our time to go. Imagine, like many of you may have been with family through the holidays. Imagine that you meet up with the uncle who you never really talk to for a reason. And this guy just doesn't believe that climate change is real. And he really wants to prove this to you and argue with you. Maybe it's just me, but I don't want to be trying to convince someone like that. I would rather be doing things that actually make an impact on the planet and help to care for the planet. So I'm not sure if this list is going to come back into my planning for next year. I don't know if it was just like, in the moment I really need this, but it's here for you if you feel like you're getting stuck in the loop of spending time where you don't really want to be. And the outline for this is on page 3 of the PDF that I have for you. That's over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/252. But before you dive into doing that list, I want to share the framework that I for sure want you to do today. So the first one was optional. And this one, honestly, is the compass for everything for the next 5 years. That's what ends up coming out of this. And like I said before, I am really shocked when I look back at previous lists to see, oh wow, that actually came into my reality. I write things on this, I call it my 4 areas of importance page, and they seem impossible and they seem out of reach. And then, oh my gosh, they're either on their way to happening or they actually do happen. And I want to give a shout out to Pat Flynn, who I learned this from in the Will It Fly book. Now, his was a little bit different, but he talks about the airport test. That's what he calls it. And I made it my own by defining these 4 areas of importance. And this has worked for my life as well as the hundreds of yoga teachers who I have worked with over the years. And they've told me this really enables them to be focused on what they want to have in their life. Okay, so let's do this. Let's dive in here together. And I just want to give you the outline that really helps me. The scenario is that 5 years from today, so imagine 5 years from today, and you might even write that date down, you run into an acquaintance at the airport that you have not seen for the past 5 years. And they ask you, "How are you doing?" And you truthfully reply, "Oh my gosh, life is amazing because." And then you start to fill in these 4 sections: health and wellness, relationships and community, purpose and work, and finances. So that's all on the PDF. I'll read them again for you. Health and wellness, relationships and community, purpose and work, and finances. And you'll set a timer now for 20 minutes and fill in each section with any ideas that come up for you, as long as you're coming back to, meeting up with this friend in 5 years and explaining how amazing and how wonderful life is right now in each of these areas. Now, something that works for me is I try and fill it in as quickly as possible. Otherwise, I end up overthinking it. I let it be messy. I let it be imperfect. You can always do this again if you wanted to, but honestly, just that, get it done really quickly. Also, don't forget to aim high. Dream big. Be as specific as you can. I have some examples for you just to give you some examples from some of my 4 areas of importance, either this year or previous years. So, for example, health and wellness. I get outside daily to walk, garden, bike, ski, or hike, and I love the time that I have in nature. I feel strong and healthy and full of energy. I'm sleeping well with 8 to 10 hours per night. An example for relationships and community, my immediate family gets together for a meal once a week where we laugh and catch up and really enjoy each other's company. This year, we're going on a family vacation together. I'm paying for it all, and the kids are so excited. So you might even get more specific. Where would you go on vacation together? You might start to look at how much is the trip going to cost. I'm able to pay for this. And this is where I want you to aim high. I don't even want to give you a number because I want you to set those things that feel out of your reach, really. Okay, an example for purpose and work. I love what I'm doing. I am surrounded by a team of amazing people who work with me to help yoga teachers and pelvic health professionals. Because of their work, my job feels so much easier. I don't feel struggle to make a living, and I really get to enjoy what I'm doing. Also, I just am about to publish my first book. So that's an example, Connected Yoga Teachers, where I don't know what that book might be about. That one has been on my list for the last 2 years, and it just feels really out of reach to publish a book. So it's there. I might flesh that out a little bit more of what the book might be on. I have some ideas for sure, but I just want you to know that aim high, be as specific as you can, but you don't always have to be specific. Okay, an example of finances. I am 100% debt-free now. I've paid off my mortgage. I'm looking at investing now in a garden project that will enable people to have jobs, learn how to grow food, and feed the houseless and hungry in my community. Okay, so it's your turn now. Set the timer for 20 minutes. You can always add more to this later on, but for right now, try and fill all of the sections and notice if one doesn't have as much in it as the other ones. Also, you could go back to the list that you made after you listened to episode 250 and 251, but only if you're feeling stuck. I really think you can do this. Also, some people get really stuck on the finances section, but can you see how it really fuels the rest of the things? Like if you said that you want to go on vacation, or you want to take some time off, or you want to go on maternity leave, or you want to leave a job, you need to be specific with your finances and talk about what you need in order to make that happen. So this is here for you. I'm excited for you to dive in. I'm so excited to hear how this goes. Next week, in part 4, in the final part of this series, we're going to set our goals. And all of this work is going to come together. It's so cool because it makes it so that you're setting goals in a mindful way with intention, and this framework that has a lot of science behind it as well. So enjoy your time off if you're on holidays right now and listening in real time. And as we get closer and closer to the time of New Year's resolutions, we're going to meet back here in January and set 1 to 3 goals maximum for the first part of 2022. And then you will have this whole framework to use over and over again every quarter, or maybe every month if you want to. Whenever you need time to refresh and refocus, it's here for you. Also, just a few reminders before I sign off. Remember that you get a free month of access to pelvic health professionals up until the end of this month. Use the coupon code CONNECTED2021 over at pelvichealthprofessionals.com. And if you're a member of the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group, you will see that our team is off for 2 weeks and coming back soon. There's no new posts happening in the group at this time, but this is a really great time for you to have less time on Facebook and more time to yourself before we dive into the new year. So we'll be back there at the beginning of January. The first Monday in January, we'll be back. And every single Monday, even through the holidays, we have a podcast for you. Speaking of you, I am so grateful, so grateful. And I want to thank you. In February of the coming year, in February of 2022, this podcast will have its 5th anniversary. 5 years of episodes is beyond what I could ever have wished for or imagined. And it is really all thank you to your support, to your listening, to your time hanging out. Thank you to all of you who have left us a review. If you haven't, that's a really great gift to give our team. And also, thank you for telling other yoga teachers about the podcast. That means so much. Also, I want to say a special thank you to a podcast listener, Jenny, who left us a voice message after listening to a podcast about how to close a yoga class. Let's hear how Jenny closes her class.
Hi, Shannon. I just listened to your podcast about alternatives for closing your class, and I thought I would share what I use. My name is Jenny, and I'm from Coburg, Ontario, and I teach yoga at the Living Well Movement Center. So as I close my class, I ask my students to bring their hands to heart center if that feels right to you. And I'll share with you some metta meditation or loving kindness. May you be safe and loved. May you be happy and healthy. May you be kind and caring. May you know that all is well. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. Thank you for coming. I previously used namaste at the end, and I think I'm going to try switching it out for thank you at the end.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for sharing this with us and also telling us about what it's like to re-examine whether or not we want to say namaste at the end of our yoga class. I really think that shows a lot of respect for yoga. If other connected yoga teachers are wondering, we have an article and a podcast about closing out yoga classes, and I'll include both of those in our show notes. I want to say a huge thank you to our team over here. Suzanne, our audio engineer who lives off the grid in a cabin in the US. Crunch, our resident writer who is a digital nomad traveling, who's now in Mexico. Sinead, our community support manager who lives in the west of Canada in Alberta. And Erica on the other side of Canada in Nova Scotia, our virtual assistant. And as we close out this episode, I am so curious, what will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?